Nothing that I wanted. Despite everything, I was still a child who just wanted their love, but as I grew older I began to accept I wouldn't get it and made peace with that. I guess somewhere along the line when my parents realized I gave up on them, as throughout my teen years they, mainly my mother, began to treat me better, but at that point I wasn't the child who begged for their love anymore. I never received the love of my parents and I wasn't asking for it anymore. Although I can't say I kept hating them. In fact, my feeling began to feel neutral towards them. In my eyes we were practically strangers. I never got to know them truly as they raised me with the bare minimum and never had any real conversations with me and never spent any quality time with me. They also knew nothing about me, so them suddenly trying to play parents with me was awkward to say the least. When I was 18 my mother got pregnant and I guess that was when they gave up on trying to fix things with me as they could have a new child to start over with. They didn't treat me poorly again, but instead it felt like we were strangers living in the same home. When I turned 19 my mother gave birth to a girl, but due to some complications she didn't end up surviving. This crushed my father. Not only did he begin to resent me for not being as sad as he was over her death, she was barely a mother to me so there wasn't much to be sad over, but he also blamed his daughter for unaliving his wife. He was never home after the incident and I was left taking care of my sister. I ended up having to take a break from college after the time I came home from my classes to my sister screaming with hunger in an unchanged diaper while my father was out drinking. I took care of Belle full time and called out my father multiple times, but he always got angry and ended the convo with him saying I could always leave Belle at the fire station. I eventually gave up on forcing him to be a father. Despite everything I truly loved Belle. She was the sweetest and cutest kid. She was almost always smiley and surprisingly slept through the night. Once she was old enough I enrolled her in daycare and continued my education while working night shifts. I always made sure to leave a good portion of afternoons empty so I could spend time with her. She always knew who her actual father was, and as she grew older she began to try and spend time with him, I guess as she began to follow him around the house. Of course that quickly ended after he blew up on her and she began to fear him. I realized she saw me as a parental figure despite the fact she knew I was her brother. When she was old enough for preschool I found out she was telling people I was her father. I never mentioned it to her and just let it be until she gave her Father's Day card she made in preschool to me. I then told her if she wanted she could call me Dad, and since then she's been calling me Daddy. My father ended up getting a girlfriend and began to change himself as he stopped drinking, got a better job, and even began to take over on a majority of the bills other than the portion I agreed to pay to stay living here. He never really tried being a father to Belle. He did begin to eat breakfast with us, but that breakfast was spent in silence other than me and Belle talking. Fast forward to a few months ago on Belle's birthday, I had planned a party for her and invited her preschool class. My father ended up attending as I guess his girlfriend thought it would be a good time to meet his daughter as she was the one who looked excited to be here. Anyways, while she was opening gifts I surprised her with one of those kids' electric cars. She screamed and hugged me yelling how she loved me and called me Daddy. After the party and after Belle was fast asleep, my father asked me what the hell happened. I was confused till he yelled asking why his daughter was calling me Daddy. I asked him if he seriously didn't know why and told him that I was the one who raised her. I bought her everything. I celebrated her firsts. I was the one who didn't abandon her. He was quiet and went to bed. Since then he's tried to play father and talk to her, but he was a stranger to her. She was a sweet girl so she entertained my father's conversation, but he could tell how awkward she felt and it was clear it hurt him. Despite how selfish it is, I don't want their relationship to get better. After all, just as she saw me as her dad I saw her as my daughter. I graduated college and I'm looking for a better job so I can move Belle and I into our own home. I may be a bad person for enjoying my father's misery and regret realizing he ruined his chances in having a relationship with his daughter, but I'll never be as bad as him.